In this video, I'm going to show you how to progress from a 2-arm hang to a comfortable, expressive 1-arm hang using the Tabata method. Tabata gives you a 4-minute timer made up of 8 30-second intervals, and these go for 20 seconds work and 10 seconds rest. This is the app I'd recommend. Once you've downloaded it, it'll give you a 7-second countdown. I'm just cutting that for the video so you can chalk up your hands or get ready.
Exercise.
And then 20 seconds to work and 10 seconds to rest. Now we can use this countdown on the screen as a reference, but actually work with our own intervals depending on how hard the position is that you're working on. So with a bilateral hang, aka a regular 2-arm hang, you might start out with 10 seconds work and 20 seconds rest until you can do 20 on, 10 off. And then you'll progress towards 1-arm variations by shortening the work period as you level up in difficulty. And then you'll increase the work period as you get comfortable until you're doing 1-arm hangs for 20 on, 10 off, or even just 30 seconds alternating arms.
Halfway there.
3 gorillas hanging out.
3, 2, 1.
I'm going to run you through the system I would use to go from 2 arms to 1 arm and beyond. Don't rush through this. It might take a few months. Just enjoy it. So this is level 1. It's the hanging lateral weight shift, and you're just going to shift as much weight as you're comfortable with to one side to start biasing that one arm. So you're going to spend 10 to 20 seconds leaning towards one side, then rest, then do the same on the other side. And you're going to grip powerfully and pull down actively through the ring with a straight arm so that you're in an active shoulder position with a slightly depressed scapula. As you get more comfortable, you can begin to use your assisting arm a little bit more lightly, so that the loaded arm that I'm bending towards is pulling down more strongly. And then over time, you can reduce the assisting arm to just a couple of fingers. Try to do this smoothly, very lightly transition to 2-finger assist, and then control the transition back to both hands holding on tight. Then we do the same thing with 1 finger, again making sure that the transition is smooth, and progressing towards a feather light touch on that single finger, before finally moving on to this last progression, which is the single arm hang. As I bend to one side, I'm pulling down to resist gravity on that same side arm, and you can see that there's also a rotational control challenge because I no longer have 2 points of support. Watch my wrist rotate to control the rotation. If you feel any pinching, clunking, or unstable sensations, reduce the side bend and the weight shift so that you can stay more in 2 arms. Your confidence should come from practice and noticing the details. So accumulate practice just below your maximum ability rather than rushing. And with shoulders especially, this approach really pays dividends. Okay, so as you see me shift towards one side by crunching my obliques, I also pull down with my shoulder with a straight arm. So it's this action of depressing the shoulder blade, gripping and pulling down as I bend to my right side. As I pull down and activate this lateral line, my shoulder blade travels down the side of my rib cage and my shoulder externally rotates. And here it internally rotates and glides up. As I pull down on the bar, I'm also pulling slightly forward, connecting my right arm to the feeling of my left hip via my right shoulder. So I'm short through my pec and through my obliques. And in more of a passive hang, that pec to shoulder line lengthens for a nice stretch. But that line only gets shortened and lengthened and thereby strengthened in short and long positions when the rib cage is stacked over the pelvis. So this is why it's good to have a slightly hollow position and have your abs and obliques active. This means you can drive movement through the shoulder blade specifically, rather than just be wiggling through your body and thinking that you're controlling your scapula. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to explore different lines of pull, but that's different from doing it unconsciously when you intend to move your shoulder. No movement is wrong if it's intentional and helpful. The question is, Neo, are you getting what you're looking for? What I think you should be looking for here is rotational control at the shoulder, to be aware of the connection between the hand and the trunk, and to master that connection. And to do so, we have to notice movement there, and it's easier to notice that movement when the trunk is still and when the hand is very strong. Grip strength and midline control are so important in building shoulder integrity that if you've injured a finger or if you've broken a rib, it can often affect your shoulder. So I really want you to focus on building up that strong grip, using chalk if you need to, and just controlling your midline position in a basic neutral hang position and building up time there. So to break this down, our strategy is going to be to build up volume via the Tabata method of building hanging time, and then we're going to add degrees of rotation and mobility in the shoulder, starting with neutral and mastering both active and passive ranges. Now, if you don't have a lot of strength through range in your shoulders yet, then the difference between your active and passive hang won't look very meaningful, and you might not feel particularly comfortable or safe in either one. This will improve over time, but if it's not feeling good on one arm, then you need to regress to working on 2 arms again and build up your range and safety over time. Use the same active-passive Tabata protocol to build 45 degrees of internal rotation, up to 4 to 8 minutes, 45 degrees of external rotation until you can do 4 to 8 minutes, 90 degrees of internal rotation, we'll talk about this one, and 90 degrees of external rotation. So you're progressively rotating your body to gain more control of your shoulder blades. And when you can glide and move your shoulder blades well, it gives your shoulder joint room to rotate and not to dislocate, which is a wonderful thing. When your arms are behind your body, internal rotation and depression go together. So watch this, internal rotation, depression, and elevation and external rotation go together. And that's because at the end range of shoulder extension behind the body, all we have to do is rotate to get to the end range of flexion in front of the body. So end range flexion and extension link up just by rotating the shoulder joint. And we're going to see that a bit more clearly through this dislocate movement, hanging off 2 arms. Now you need very open pecs and lats to do this. You can see my pec line from sternum to shoulder being stretched. See those sinews stretching out? So that's what allows me to pass through and rotate through this position. If my pecs, lats, and subscaps were too tight, because they're all internal rotators, then I wouldn't be able to pass through that position without dislocating my shoulder, because there wouldn't be enough joint space to keep externally rotating. So this is why having long, strong lats, pecs, and really active scapular stabilizer muscles is so essential for having healthy shoulders. And this is also why this position 4, can be quite tricky. It's kind of between internal and external rotation, and there's not a lot of space. I can rotate through it here because, as you can see, my pecs and lats are really, really lengthening. So this is how I recommend you explore that with 1 foot on the ground to understand your own shoulder anatomy. The goal of all this is to be able to rotate freely through the widest range of motion possible with control and safety. And some people are going to start out with more looseness, laxity, or weakness. Sometimes they're flexible, bendy people. Other people are going to start out with more strength, but stiffness or tightness, and maybe they can't rotate through as many ranges. So you're going to have to figure out where you're at and gently work with something between active and passive to start that feels safe, and then you can expand your spectrum of range and of rotation. Figure out what's limiting you from your freedom and evolution and work on that.